Why'd he do that? Take the speech.
Have you ever wondered why serial killers kill? Were they abused? Do they have a mental illness or a personality disorder? Today I will talk about what a serial killer is, America's first serial killer, and I'll give a few examples of today's serial killers. So let's find out exactly what classifies a person as a serial killer. A serial killer is defined as someone who has murdered 3 or more people over a period of more than a month, with a cooling off period between each of the murders. There are multiple types of serial killers, including act-focused, who kill quickly, and process-focused, who kill slowly. Within this group, there are 2 different types, known as visionary and missionary. The visionary hears voices that direct him to kill, and the missionary believes that he is meant to get rid of a particular group. Lust killers derive sexual pleasure from killing. Thrill killers get a kick from it. Gang killers murder because they believe they will profit in some way. And power killers wish to play God or be in charge of life and death. Killers can be organized or disorganized, depending on the state of the crime scene. And they can be non-social or asocial, depending on whether they are excluded by society or if they exclude themselves from society. In the United States, there have been 2,320 serial killers, as opposed to 116 in England and only 97 in Italy. There have been around 400 serial killers in the United States in the past century, with around 3,860 victims. H.H. Holmes is considered to be America's first serial killer, who took over a pharmacy in Chicago and lured people inside, which he built into a maze of death traps. The upper floors of the building contained his living quarters and rooms where he would torture and kill his victims. When the 1893 Columbian Exposition came around, Holmes opened his murder house as a hotel, and some of the guests did not leave the hotel alive. In 1896, he was captured and hanged. Now that you know the basic facts about serial killers, let's learn about 2 specific serial killers, Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer. Ted Bundy is known as one of the most notorious criminals in the late 20th century. He was born in 1946 in Vermont in a home for unwed mothers before moving to Washington with his mother Elizabeth. Around the time Bundy graduated from the University of Washington, many women from the Seattle area went missing. When he moved to Utah for law school in 1974, women disappeared from that area as well. He was arrested in 1975 for kidnapping and was indicted on murder charges 2 years later. He decided to represent himself in this murder case, and while doing research in the courthouse library, he jumped out the window and escaped. In 1977, he escaped again, ran to Florida, killed 2 sorority girls, a 12-year-old girl, and before being captured again. Ted Bundy was sentenced to death and died by electric chair in 1982 in a Florida state prison. He suffered from antisocial personality disorder and was classified as a high-factor 1 psychopath who lacked empathy and was a pathological liar. Our next serial killer, Jeffrey Dahmer, was born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was a sex offender and murderer who killed men on the fringe of society. Dahmer ended up killing 17 men during his 13-year killing spree, which occurred between 1978 and 1991. Jeffrey would feed his victims alcohol laced with drugs before he strangled them to death. He would also have sex with the bodies before dismembering and disposing of them. He usually kept a souvenir, which tended to be either the skull or the genitals of the victim, and he began to consume the flesh of these victims. In 1991, Dahmer was arrested after a search of his apartment revealed a head in the fridge and 3 more in the freezer. He pleaded guilty by virtue of insanity because he had borderline personality disorder, and he was found guilty and sentenced to 957 years in prison. But while in prison, he was murdered by Christopher Scarver on November 28, 1994. To summarize what you learned today, you learned how a serial killer gets classified as such, types of serial killers, and you learned about a few specific serial killers, H.H. Holmes, Ted Bundy, and Jeffrey Dahmer. If you would like to learn more information on serial killers, please visit www.ranker.com/list/famous American serial killers. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my speech today, and I hope you learned a thing or two about serial killers.